Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Living the Liminal this week. I am so glad you are here. You are really in for a treat today. You know how I talk a lot about synchronicities and how things just sort of show up in your life when you're ready for them. And the cute story about today's guest and myself is I've been a little bit obsessed with dreams for a long time. And I was in a cute little boutique store. Can't even tell you the name of it. I don't even know, but it was somewhere in Austin, Texas. And I came across her book and immediately just was drawn to it. Like it spoke to me, like by me, which, for me in shopping, everything speaks to me. And so I bought it and I started digging into it and fell in love with the way our guest today thinks about dreams. The things she was saying just melted my heart. And so I reached out to her and said, "Hey, would you like to be on my podcast? I would love to have this conversation." And we are so blessed to have Andrea Kasprzak here with us today. She is the author of the book Experiments in Dreaming. That was the one I bought in Texas. She is a writer and an intuitive. Both her fiction and nonfiction are inspired by fairy tales, nature, and a feeling of being connected to something bigger than ourselves. She is the author of the Daydream playbook, Imagination Transforms Everything, and the one I just talked about, the invitational journal, Experiments in Dreaming, which I highly recommend you get if you're at all curious about your dreams. It will walk you through it. A former style editor, her writing has appeared in Teen Vogue, Elle, Utne Reader, Allure, Nylon, and the San Francisco Chronicle, among others. And she currently lives in Michigan. Andrea, welcome to Living the Liminal.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was just telling, Andrea and I were just talking before we started that I have been writing my dreams down for years and just sort of playing, okay, like a playground, playing around with what I thought they meant based on, I'm highly intuitive and just kind of like just guessing, literally. So I love that you use the word experiment in dreaming, like it's an experiment. So how did this work of dreams and such find you?
Yeah, so I've always had a fascination with anything mystical, liminal, otherworldly. It started with fairy tales and then kind of branched off into spirituality from there. And for years, my friends were always sending me these books like dream dictionaries and dream meanings. And it felt so limiting to me because I feel like dreams are so fluid and so open. And I wanted to do something that encouraged more of a playful exploration of them.
Yeah. And you know what I was just telling Andrea, my personal opinion is that I feel like in the world of personal growth, transformation, getting to know ourselves better, growing, changing, evolving, typical everyday life, right? I feel like dreams are the sweet spot for getting to know ourselves better. They seem to me to be less scary in taking a look at myself, like as if I was looking in a mirror, versus sometimes having to do the heavy duty, hard inner work that's required for full transformation. Do you
Right.
kind of think that too?
Yeah, because you wake up and this whole world reveals itself to you. And then you wake up, sometimes you have a strange feeling or a sense of familiarity, or I've had a lot of healing dreams, especially after breakups or big losses in my life, where things will play out in a way that provides like a sense of peace or a deeper understanding that I don't think that I could have received if I was trying to analyze it in this very logical, right brain kind of way. There's something very artistic and just intuitive and imaginative about the dream world.
And I feel like it opens us. So, like you talk a lot about in your introduction, you talk a lot about dreams as like a gateway to our own intuition and like my word is internal agency, like understanding who we are.
Right.
Talk
Absolutely.
to us more about that because yeah, we all have intuition, but some people don't believe or trust their intuition.
Right. I think for so many years, it was always seen as this sort of like fringy or like esoteric thing. And that's partly another reason why I wrote this book, is because I wanted to just open it up, because it's something that we all experience. Dreams are universal. And a lot of times when you do, share your dream, people think, oh, that's worthless, that there's no information there for me. That's like useless information. But when we go deeper into it and we really start to think about it, or we actually set an intention that our dreams will be meaningful for us, then they reveal themselves to us in these really beautiful, sort of surreal, poetic ways that they're just like endless treasure hunts, really.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of like just being in a toy shop,
Mm-hmm.
unlimited toy shop, where for me, my dreams sometimes include mystical images, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times they include for me characters. So the people in my dreams and the actual objects are things I'm well aware of. It's almost like that's the true connection, right? And it's taken
Yeah.
me a long time to realize the dream is not about who's in the dream,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. And there's also a philosophy
Why
that
and how is that?
all elements in the dream are the dreamer. And it's like getting to see yourself through so many different lenses. And that's actually that's an exercise that I included in the book. Is just interpreting the dream through each perspective of each object or character that appears to you in your dream. And so there's so many different levels that you can sort of unlock the meaning of the dream for you. And there's no right answer. I mean, there's a right answer that is the right answer, but it's something that no one else could tell you.
So do you believe that, like, if I dream about something and I don't get the interpretation accurate enough, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and again, there's no right or wrong here, but like, let's say I'm interpreting the dream and my egoic, controlling mind kind of takes it down one way. Will the dream keep reappearing in a new way to get me to understand this aspect? Or does it,
Yeah, I
how
think
does
it
that
could.
work in the mind?
Yeah, I think it could. I think sometimes, like for me, I've had dreams where a certain person might reappear in my dreams, and every time that I would journal it out and write about it, I would find a deeper meaning to it. And then once I kind of came to this place of peace, it was I was processing a really intense breakup, and I came to this place of peace, and then those dreams stopped, and then a different person started appearing to me in my dreams. So it's kind of like this never ending, voyage to the inner world, the inner psyche, where you get to really like kind of see what wants to come out. And I feel like things have a way of appearing in dreams that maybe they can't in waking life, like it's not safe enough or something.
Well, we talk a lot about, like, the waking life is your consciousness, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
conscious awareness of life and what's happening in front of you. And then you interpret dreams as the subconscious or the unconscious. I get confused on that.
Yeah, I mean they've called it the subconscious for the title, but I mean I feel like it's almost like it's like another layer of you that doesn't maybe get to come out in the waking life. In the waking
Okay.
life, where a lot of us are fixated in our roles or being who we are in waking life, and then in a dream world, it's kind of like anything could come about. You could meet anyone from any time in your dream, and there's no rules really. There's so much more freedom.
I think that's the fun of dreams, because
Mm-hmm.
when you were little, you didn't really have dreams, you had nightmares.
I did have nightmares when I was little. Yeah, I had night terrors actually. Like my dreams were so vivid that I was like screaming in my dreams. It was really intense.
So I'm kind of curious, like, because that's all we remember as kids are the nightmares, right?
Right.
So what, like, that's kind of, I'm kind of getting really curious about that. When we're little, we seem to only remember nightmares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as we get older, we seem to have less and less nightmares and more of the richer dreams that are more descriptive and helpful and guidance. Is that just part
Yeah.
of our evolution, or what's up with that?
I mean, I think it's different dreams come to you at different times with different meanings. And I think also if you ask your dream, like that's why I call this book Experiments in Dreaming, because if you ask your dream, you invite your dream, you play with your dream, then you will get all sorts of different things. Like there have been times that I've asked a question to, or set an intention, like I will get an answer about my writing in my dream, or there's like dream telepathy where you can connect with other people in your dreams. So you can start, like the more conscious you are about your dreams, the more you can start to play with them, and the deeper and richer and more fun they can become.
How does one like become more open to their dreams? Like I have a lot of my clients will say, I don't dream.
Yeah.
And we do all dream, correct?
Yeah. I feel like it's sort of like intuition or even imagination. My first playbook was about imagination. I think that sometimes people dismiss it as something silly or useless. And because there's not necessarily a profit or achievable gain from the dream world, it is kind of like play. And for a lot of people, they cast off their desire to play or imagine as they get older and their priorities shift. But I think just setting that intention that you want to start engaging with your dreams again, that you do want them to be meaningful, that you are going to start recording them, then they start deepening, and really anything can be revealed to you in your dreams. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I recently had a wild dream. I don't even really want to share it because it might freak a lot of people who listen out.
Yeah.
Because it was about one of my family members, and it was really, if you just took the description of it, it was gory and really bizarre. But in my study of the psyche and the unconscious mind and the conscious mind and the ego, I knew metaphorically what the dream was telling me, and the guidance it was giving me as like, okay, here's kind of where you are, and here's where you could go next. And I woke up laughing. And most people, I think, would not have been laughing at this dream. They would have woke up as if it was a nightmare. But for me, I woke up laughing because I was like, kick ass. I am like in the spot where I want to be. Like, freedom is coming. I can feel it. Like, so I think you're right. It's this relationship that you have with your inner self.
Absolutely. And it's also like every one of us has a different idea of what different things mean. Like, for example, snow might mean something totally different to you than it does to me. And so when you are able to really own it and go into it and analyze the dreams, like we always want someone to tell us, what does it mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? But it's like, we know what it means. And when we actually take agency and we start, just going into our own resources of, okay, what does snow mean? What does a candle mean? What does that mean to me? What's the first thing that comes to mind? There's no wrong answers. And we start getting more comfortable with just analyzing things on our own. Then everything becomes meaningful for us. It's like, life is like, whoa, and dreams too. It's just like, there's so much that you can get out of it that will only really have meaning for you.
And like so much talk is about like, your dreams really influence your outer life. Can this be reversed? Like, can you influence your dreams to be more creative for your outer? Like, can you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes we're looking at our dreams to help us interpret the outer life, but can we sort of like go in and say, hey, dream world, let's do this in the outer world?
Yeah, I think so. And I do have a couple of invitations in my book. There's one study that I found. It was, I think, a German scientist who found that if you put a bouquet of flowers in your room, that you will have more pleasant dreams. And there's like different experiments that you can do with watching different things before you go to bed. Like if you watch like a really horrific story before you go to bed on TV, and then you might have more intense dreams. I did a couple where I was watching really creative imaginative movies like Alice in Wonderland before I went to bed. And then my dreams were really intense. And then my partner at the time, he woke up at 3 a.m. with the whole screenplay, like that just downloaded into his brain. He got up and he's like, oh my God, I just saw a movie that I want to write in my mind. Wow. and he wrote it out like 6 pages at like 4 a.m. So it's just
And you
like,
hear that, like you hear people talking. See, this is the stuff we don't really talk about. But
mhm.
there are people, and you kind of wrote a little bit about this in your book on one of the sections where you talked about the person who invented Google had some kind of a dream right
Yeah,
before. And you hear that
yeah.
a lot from people where they say, I had a dream or I had a premonition at night or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many authors that I've heard of and know of. They've dreamt their story or
Mhm.
they play with their dreams. Like I gave the example of N.K. Jemisin, who she would just like take little metaphors and symbolism in her dreams and she turned it into her best-selling science fiction series. And then, Twilight, that came to the author in a dream and that was, huge. So I think if we take our dreams seriously, our dreams will support us. Like we can really mine them for all kinds of things.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, I know that, okay, so let's go back to somebody who's not dreaming. What are the
Mhm.
reasons why people don't remember their dreams?
I think some people just they don't have the intention to really take them seriously. I mean, there's so many people who, when I would talk about dreaming, they would just kind of dismiss it and be like, I don't, it's so boring to hear about other people's dreams. I don't want to hear about anyone's dream. And they themselves didn't experience a very rich dream life. But I do think it's the same way, with imagination or intuition. It's just like you've really got to strengthen it. It's like a muscle that um you can't expect like, oh, it's just going to work for me right away. But I think if you prioritize it and you really take it seriously and you write it down and you treat it as a practice that you can go to, then it will eventually become more important to you in your life.
Now, sometimes I use Google to look up what
Yeah.
certain things mean. I have some resource books, but sometimes I'm stuck on, okay, what does this character or what does this
Mhm.
image mean? And like literally it's like a blankness that comes over me. So I will go to Google and say, what's the meaning of something in your dream? And it's not like I read it for fact, but it
Yeah.
like it's sort of like it sort of just shakes me up a little and then I go, oh, that's what it means.
Yeah.
What are all the ways that people can do this if they don't trust their intuition, right?
Sure.
Because I mean, literally the dream world comes, I mean, connecting to it and understanding the messages comes easy to me, but it doesn't for everybody. So if someone's
Right.
listening and they're like, I would have no idea how to do that, what are some easy ways that they can do this?
Right. I think that's a good way to start. I mean, and I think it's kind of similar to reading tarot cards. I mean, when you first start out, you might go to somebody who is a tarot reader and you might ask for a reading, and then you might buy a deck and you might reference the guidebook that comes with it. And then over time, you become so aware of being able to read the messages for yourself. So it's like, it's a practice. And I think that it's totally fine to consult the dream dictionaries at first or consult tarot cards or even just practice bibliomancy in anything, like open up a book and look at the first word and then write down what comes to mind. It's just a practice that the more serious that you take it and the more you do it, the easier it becomes to sort of see everything as like a metaphor or a symbol for you on your journey.
And are dreams on that journey with us? I mean, like, are they ever evolving or are they just isolated synapses of things that we need to be aware of?
I think both. I mean, I think there's times that maybe you might go through a phase where your dreams aren't very vivid, and then you might go through another time where you're having like nightmares that wake you up. And I think the thing to remember is to just not judge it, just like a meditation practice. Don't try to put rules on it or judge it. Just go into it every day as a discipline, as a practice, as something you do. See what comes up, see what, if anything, has meaning for you. You don't have to force it, but just allow whatever wants to reveal itself to reveal itself to you. And don't be scared of the dreams that seem disturbing. So many people have been like, oh, I don't want to know my dreams because I used to have nightmares. And I'm like, well, they're not, there's messages there and you can interpret it and rewrite the story however you want. You don't have to make it be so literal.
What is the difference between a dream and a nightmare in like the technical terms?
Yeah, I don't even like the term nightmare. I think the nightmare is when people, it's like we see them in the movies, oh, this terrible dream that's like,
Mhm.
like I don't know, we want to cast things as good or bad, right or wrong, light or dark. But I think that in the book, I just reference it as an uncomfortable dream, a dream that you
Okay.
might wake up and feel like if you had a dream that someone was cheating on you or that
Right.
you died or something. But it's kind of like in tarot, if you pull the devil or you pull the death card, it's not like this literal thing that like, oh, bad things are going to happen to you. It's just like you can make your own empowering message from it. Just like you did with your dream, you were like, you found like power in your dream and inspiration. So,
Well, and I think we can't even go back to dreams, right? And like rework them from a different lens or where we're at. Because even as we're talking, I'm thinking of like three or four other messages that dream could have even had. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that's the freedom, and why I
hmm
love Dream World is because it's so freeing to
hmm
where do you feel you need to go next? This is what it's going to reveal to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it encourages us to just sort of let go a little bit and have fun
Mhm.
with it. And again, coming back to that idea of play, which is why, for me, it's natural because I'm a writer and an artist. So I love to just imagine, and there's not always room for that in our world. And
Right,
so in the dream world, is nothing but that. So you can
right.
you can be as abstract and imaginative and free as you want. And so I think it's a real escape and release for a lot of people.
Yeah. Do Okay, so are there different type? I mean, I know in your book you talk about like different types of dreams, like the creative dream, the oracle dream, the sex
Mhm.
dreams, which we're going to talk about those, the healing dreams, like all of that. But like,
Yeah.
what is meant by like lucid dreaming? And you talk in your book about I don't even know how to say it, hypnagogic.
Oh yeah, the nap
What is
debrief
all
dreaming. Yeah.
like?
There's
What
so
is?
much. There's so much. And then there's like, I mean, there's people who are very advanced dreamers. I mean, I've had lucid dreams where I'm in the dream and I am awake in the dream. I know I'm dreaming in the dream and I'm able to kind of control myself like a video game character
Yes,
almost.
I have a lot
And
of those kind of dreams too. So I
yeah,
dream multiple times a night. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm wondering, okay, and I know I'm a little bit all over, but we'll pull it back in. I'm wondering if highly sensitive people dream more than others.
It makes sense that they would. I mean, I don't know if there's any like any studies or anything that's been done on highly sensitive people or ways to prove it. And I think even in our society, there was the term empath for a while, and now it's highly sensitive and intuitive is all kind of coming into
Right.
the light, with a lot of people kind of realizing that they are. But I do know that highly sensitive people process the waking world in such an intense and
And
intuitive
fast.
way.
I mean, we're
Yeah,
like, shh, you know what I mean?
yeah,
We're like
yeah.
that quick little robot. We're taking it all in. And so I was wondering, that question just popped up right before we got on of, oh, I wonder if highly sensitive people dream because I have always dreamed.
Mhm,
I mean, there are very few nights that I have one dream or even no dreams. Most of the
mhm.
time, I literally am like in a world of two and three different things, and they're not all like one building on the other. Sometimes they're isolated. I'm like, whoa, okay, where have I been during that nighttime of sleep? Because I'm all
Yeah.
over. So then I wonder if that too is like because I pick up on so much during the day, like
Mhm.
in the hologram, is that why my dream world is the same way?
Yeah, I wonder. I bet because I mean that's kind of how my brain works too. It's just like it's always picking up cues from the outside world. I'm always picking up on synchronicities and symbolism and metaphors, and so it makes sense that my dream worlds would reflect that too.
Yes. I mean, my kids are sometimes my family are like, would you knock it off? Can we just have a moment where we're not like deep, deep into everything? But
Yeah.
I don't know any other way
Yeah,
is the
same.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it
the issue
comes to
of
me
being
without me even
intuitive.
asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's funny because it's like, I think for intuitives, it feeds us so much, and we love abstract conversations and making meaning out of things. But for other people, it exhausts them. They're
No,
like, my sister's like, you're exhausting. This is how you think all the time. I'm like,
I'm like,
yes.
welcome to my world, people.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world. This is like what happens. I mean, it's not just moments. It's like walking down the street. I am like, boom, boom, boom. My head is
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And my husband even yesterday was like, can you just kind of be with someone for the fun of it? And I'm like, I mean, I try. I don't really do it on purpose, but all of a
Yeah.
sudden everything just starts flashing. And I'm like, oh, here we go again.
I know. But the thing is that people don't think it's fun, but I think that's fun. Like, that's
That,
fun for me. Like, I have a friend who she's at the divinity school at Harvard, and she's just like the same way as I am, where we'll watch a movie and analyze every color and symbol, and we'll have abstract ideas, and we just leave like voice memos for each other, analyzing and abstract conversations. If anyone heard them, they would be like, what are these people talking about? Like, there's not like, I don't even know like the simple details of her life, but I know how she thinks about all kinds of spiritual and esoteric ideas. It's
yes,
amazing.
exactly. And like, I love how your books are like imagination and dream and intuition, because I feel like they all kind of go in sync together. Like they're all just kind
Yeah.
of, they tap the same part, I think, of our humanness. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, the other day my daughter was asking me a question and I went into this whole oracle, and she was like, Mom, you could have just said yes or no. And I was
Yeah.
like, but
Yeah.
I had deep meaning for things. I was connecting. I mean, I was so proud of myself. And she was like, Mom, you could have just said yes or no, and we could have been done with it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'll go off into a monologue, and then I'm on like two other topics that weren't even related to it. And people are like, where are you? Come back. It's
My
just,
husband will just look at me and be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And if
yeah.
he says to me, he has just started dreaming, okay, and he'll share
Okay.
dreams with me, and I'm like this, oh my God, hold on, let me get my pencil and my paper, I'm so excited, I want to like go into that with you. And he's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I really want to talk about it. I'm like, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
we have to talk about it. I like want to dig into your little head like that and get into your psyche. And he's like, oh, for God's sakes, please.
I
But
know, but that's thrilling to us. And I don't know. That's why I love this book, because it just opens people up to share so much. And it's kind of like this box that once you open it up, there's no end to where you can go, because there's no right or wrong answer. So
no.
it's like falling into Wonderland, really.
Yeah, and the exercises you incorporate are so sweet, and they're just sort of like they're just calming. You're not
Mm-hmm.
asking for a whole lot. You talk a lot about setting that, like invoking the dream, right? So
Mm-hmm.
invoke the dream. Um, I think that's important for a lot of people who just don't normally dream. But I also think, like, for even someone like me who dreams multiple times a night, some nights it's important for me to invoke what I want from the dream world.
Yes, absolutely.
So we don't
And
have to
you can
be,
play with it, you
yeah.
know?
I think
Like,
that's the
I've just
piece of
started
the, go ahead.
Yeah, I've just started doing these subliminal messages. So I'll listen to those and then see how that influences my dream world. So it's like, some people get like, I used to, as like a creative thinker type, intuitive, I used to be like, oh, I don't want to go to sleep because it's like there's what I'm not going to be able to kind of imagine and daydream. But
Right.
then I just started doing these exercises to play in my sleep. And now it's like, now I'm like playing with different music before bedtime, or different scents before bedtime, or I'll like rub different oils on my feet and kind of be like, I wonder what's going to happen in my dreams.
So what exactly happens in our brains and our psyche that those kinds of things, like, because we talk about like that in order to dream, you have to be willing to let go a little, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our unconscious mind is only going to share with us, right, what we're willing to be witnessing. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens then to our inner world of our head, that like oils or images or music or even a TV show right before we go to bed gives permission to let go?
Yeah, I think it's just about opening up. It's like, when you feel open and like,
Uh-huh.
the universe or whatever, like things start to kind of unfold for you in beautiful ways if you notice it and you open up to it and you believe in it. And I think and you have the intention. There's some people who say, oh, I never experience synchronicities, or I never dream, or I never do this. Well, it's like they're kind of closing that door without even really giving it a chance.
Right.
And I think when you are an open-minded person and an intuitive person, and I do, all kinds of different practices to keep me open. And I think that definitely influences my dreams and makes my dreams richer and more meaningful to me.
Is there a specific prayer or way that you express the intention every night before you go to bed for your dream to be something?
Yes, sometimes I'll write it down. I'm really big on pen to paper. I think that creates that opens up a lot, and a lot of things will come out that you didn't even know that you needed to release. And other times I might just light a candle and just like speak out loud, just kind of like in a prayer or intention form, and just, say that I'm open, I'm ready to, receive messages, or I'm opening up to any kind of guidance that I need, or any images, or if I have a specific intention or prayer or something that I'm dealing with, that I need specific guidance on, I'll ask for that too.
And you talk a lot about, I know I've said it before, but the relationship to your psyche. Like that, does that sort of, like when you say that, do you mean like it sort of mimics any other relationship we have?
Yeah, I think it's important to just spend that time with yourself, away from everything. Right now we're so stimulated with social media, and we're getting probably more information
Hmm.
than we've ever had. So when you take those moments away from all of that, what everybody else is saying, what everyone else is doing, you're not following anyone else but your intuition. I think that is when you find out things about yourself that maybe you lost throughout the
Hmm.
way. Like I've been opening up a lot more to childhood more than
Yeah.
ever. Things that I loved as a child and that I'm incorporating them now into my fiction, or like a song will come back to me, or a person that I need to reconnect with or something. So it's like the more that you can disconnect from what everybody else is doing and go within. And then I think that in turn influences your dreams too.
What what's the difference between like when I say my dreams are more like the characters that I know, so like the people that I'm
Mm-hmm.
well aware of, or objects that I'm well aware of, and then others might have dreams where it's more of a mystical character or like a
Mm-hmm.
metaphorical image. What's happening there?
I think it's just different reflections, like I had this dream for a while about a close friend that I had in my early 20s, and I took it away from her being the literal person, and I just was kind of like, what does this person represent to me? Who was I
Okay.
when I was in relationship with this person? Like who was I being? What qualities did this person open up in me? She was a person who really opened up a lot of creativity and freedom and youth and just that like imaginative spirit. So I just kind of made a list of all of those things, and then I interpreted that as like, I need to bring those things back into my life. This was like during the pandemic when it was like
Okay.
everything was shut down, and so I started just doing those practices that I did in my early 20s when I was a little more like, oh, everything can happen,
Yeah. Freer.
so yeah, more carefree. And so I brought those back, and then I noticed that it had an influence in my waking life, and just like in my relationships and in my writing and just my general way of interacting with the world.
I had this weird dream. It's coming to me as you're talking about all this. I was that night I had fallen asleep on the couch and I dreamt that there was this humongous green dragon, but
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those lucid dreams where I was watching myself and participating with the dragon. And the dragon was like not scary, coming around, trying to get my attention. And I was like, you need to get away. And we were interacting, but I was sort of watching it and participating at the same time. And so if you don't really have a relationship to your unconscious mind and your psyche and all of that, those kinds of things can freak you out.
Yeah, but like, you can also kind of think about, I guess if it were my dream, I would think like, what does a dragon mean to me? Like, I would think about like, what does a dragon represent? Like, what do I think of when I think of dragons? You know, almost like every animal has kind of like its own message or its own spirit. Like, what does dragon mean to me? And like to someone, a dragon might mean like, oh, childhood and Puff the Magic Dragon. And then to somebody else, it might mean like scary, you know, villain or like, you know, so it's definitely open to personal interpretation.
And I think that's so important when people are thinking about their dreams, because in that moment, I've thought about that dream a lot. Like, okay, what would it mean now? What would it mean now? What would it mean now? Because it was so significant. I even woke up looking around the house because I thought maybe there was a big dragon in the house, which sounds so crazy, but it was so real and vivid. I could feel the scales. Like that's what I mean by I was there and I was experiencing it, and it just felt so real. But in that moment, what came to me was those Disney movies where the dragon not only breathes the fire when it needs to, so there's some kind of fire burning within, there's some kind of fire within that can come out, right? Passion or purpose. But I also thought, wow, the dragon is so friendly and silly, and it could be fun. And so that in that moment was my interpretation. If I would interpret it now, it might mean something completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you recommend people go back to their dreams and take a look at them periodically?
If you want to. I think there's two different kinds of people. There's people who keep all their diaries and they go back and it has meaning for them. And then there's other people who are just like, I want to be present. This is who I am in this moment. I'm done with that. I don't even know who that person was anymore because I'm so far down my my growth that I don't need to go back into the archives of when I was 17.
Right. Okay, what was in all of your experience, what is the most typical dream that people have? Is there one that people have more often?
I think a lot of people have dreams about dying, and they have dreams about like something scary happening to one of their loved ones, or their loved one like doing something to them. And I think it kind of represents, they'll have those dreams that are like, their biggest fears like realized in a dream.
Okay.
And that's really scary to a lot of people.
What? I'm sorry.
That's really scary to a lot of people. Like, if they're being chased or killed or like, tormented, like something really unpleasant to them, like that is enough to make people kind of be put off from dreams.
In your experience, what was the most bizarre dream you've ever heard?
I don't know. They're all bizarre to me, I guess. I think the wildest thing was my ex-partner when he woke up and he had like 7 pages just poured out of him, and I read it and it was like really good. Like he saw the whole movie, he saw who was playing them. It was like, wow. It borrowed a little bit from his childhood. It was like something that he needed to go into more with his mother. And then but it was like he saw exact like cinematic scenes playing out, and his like enthusiasm when he woke up was so incredible, because it was like, I was like, you need to do something with this. Like you have to write this, like this, like
you need to put it out there in the world.
Yeah. It was like, it's always exciting to me, as an artist, to see like something that people could actually bring into physical reality, whether it be like the next Google or the next Twilight.
So I think that's amazing that we have the complexity within our psyche to actually interpret that and to put language to it, because so much of our dream world, we don't often have language in the beginning. Takes a little while to develop the language. So for him to just sort of wake up and have language immediately for the complexity of the symbolism is huge.
Yeah, it was wild. I've had like scenes of books or ideas to come to me, but I've never seen anyone before where they've had the entire thing, like it was just like he had the whole synopsis down at 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get into healing dreams. Okay. So, you talk a lot. You wrote this, and I'm going to read it on page 144. You wrote, "The brain divorces emotions from memory which allows us to process the situation in a way that is no longer heightened or intense. And so that helps us with healing, right? Because we can separate the emotion from the actual experience. And then that helps us to, I guess, allow or accept or receive the wisdom. Is that, tell me
I
what
think
you're.
so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like a example from my own life of this would be a breakup dream. You know, it's like at first I was grieving the breakup, and it was like it was really intense. You know, I was like crying, and I was really angry, and just like all the natural steps of the grieving process. But in the dream, I actually had my ex-partner come to me and like tell me the reasons why we broke up and like hold me. And it was like, it was this quiet space where there were no heightened emotions, and there was no fighting or anything. It was just this really peaceful closure. And I had that with another breakup dream too. And I've heard that happen to some friends where they've had those dreams about a family member who had passed, and like over time they would say their goodbyes through the dream world, whereas like obviously the death is so final, so they couldn't do that, you know, in person.
So we have a lot more freedom in our unconscious or subconscious to allow for a deeper meaning
Yeah.
of life and a deeper understanding.
Yeah, and just and a sense of real closure. You know, it's almost like other people can't often give you the closure. You know, there's that back and forth, even if a relationship ends like before you wanted it to or something. You know, there's that desire to like kind of go back and forth and spar with that person, but sometimes they're done and they've moved on, and like you have to give yourself that closure. And maybe in waking life you can't, but in the dream state you can find that.
Yeah, I think that's what I love most about the dreaming is that it just is, it doesn't have structure, it doesn't have rules, it doesn't have boundary. It just sort of is allowing, allowing, allowing. It's so
Yeah.
free.
Yeah, it's all about you're just receiving. You know, you're not
Yeah.
fighting, you're not hustling, you're not trying. You're just receiving. Yeah,
Because the
it's pretty
ego sort of
beautiful.
releases itself during your sleep state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about the famous sex dreams. People have them all the time. They're
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you interpret? Most people have the sex dreams and interpret it literally, right?
Yeah, I think most
Which
people do.
it's
Yeah.
never meant to be literal. Okay,
No.
so how do we bridge that from I have this literal sex dream and it's not really meant to be that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of as similar as when people get crushes on celebrities or people that they've never met before, you know, and they're like, "Oh, I'm in love with him." And it's like, "Well, you're in love with the qualities that you see reflected in him. So what does he represent to you?" Okay, he's, you know, sensitive, he's magnetic, he's charismatic. And I think it's the same thing sometimes with sex dreams. Like maybe you had a sex dream about your best friend, but the qualities that that friend represents to you, it's like they're a really stable person, they're a really, you know, calm presence. And maybe that's just your desire to either incorporate those qualities into your own life on your own, or to find those in somebody else. But it's kind of like more what you're desiring more of versus like that actual person.
So why then the sex dream? If we just need to take a look at somebody's qualities, why would the dream not be
Yeah.
something like we're sitting down and having dinner together or we're going on to a concert? Why the
Yeah.
sex?
I don't know. I think it's like the epitome of desire, you know. I mean, it's what you deeply want. It's this primal want, this like,
Okay.
I don't know, it just feels like so raw and the attraction, you know,
It
it's
feels
a lot
like to
more
me it's the most
powerful.
vulnerable type of dreaming because it's showing you like a longing that you never knew existed. And
Absolutely.
sometimes they're hard to even like get up and go, oh, did I just have that? Like, and you're right. It's not about the person who's in it or any of that. It's sort of just like, am I really that like primal, innate, instinctual that is something that I want? And so, like, are
Yeah.
all sexual dreams about connection?
It can be. I think they can be about connection, or they can be about like certain elements elements of you that you need to reclaim or you want more of, whatever you're yearning for in your life, whatever you're deeply desiring in your life. I think it can come up in a sex dream. And it's like, and the sex dreams, you know, they'll stick with you for a while and you'll get kind of excited about them. And so it's definitely like, it feels like a big wake up call whenever you have like a really powerful sex dream.
Yeah. I mean, it literally feels like a good cup of caffeinated coffee in the morning. When you
Yeah.
first wake up, you're like, I got like joy. I got like happiness here. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very powerful and you listen, you know, it makes you take notice. So it's basically a real powerful message from your soul, I think.
And there was only one time in my entire life that I remember having like a sexual type of dream, and it did not bring me. It woke me. I woke up and I thought, wonder what that's about. Like, I wonder what that's
Yeah.
about. And I was
Yeah.
wondering why. And for me, I think it was about, I had to take a look at the other person in the dream first and figure out what characteristics was I not displaying. And for me, that particular dream, because I did not wake up all excited and euphoric, I woke up kind of like, ugh, okay, what's that about?
Yeah.
It was about, what are you not showing up? Who are you not showing up? You know, in terms of like for yourself. What are you not bringing forward? You're hiding. What are you doing? You're chasing. You know, like it was that kind of a feeling. And I think it can go both ways, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many parts that are so easy to repress, you know, in daily life, or we think that we are being our true selves. And then the dream will show you this wild sex dream. And you're just like, whoa, I guess that's in me and that wanted to be known. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it can go on anyway.
Yeah. I think that that's the beauty of the dream world. And then you talk a lot about like the childlike wonder, you know, being in that zone of just playfulness and openness. And you know, so much out there right now is all about talking about the inner child. But you don't necessarily mean like going back in your childhood. You just mean taking this innocence within you.
I think it can be both, actually. I mean,
Okay.
the child, like the more I discover my inner child, the more I realize I still am my inner child. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm still trying to bring all those elements that brought me joy as a child back into my waking life. And that's kind of my new practice. But I also think just the childlike wonder, you know, just to be able to go, and that's what dreams do too, because dreams, you never really have the same dream twice. So it's like, it's getting that sense of awe and wonder and looking at the world in a brand new way. And that's what keeps you alive and keeps you inspired. So I think dreams are a great way to kind of bring that back.
Now, as you were talking, I had this memory. I've had a dream, and there's a scene in the dream, and then all of a sudden a couple weeks ago I was driving and I turned and I was like, oh wow, that's the place. So what's happening there when I start to notice that I'm having dreams, and then all of a sudden aspects of my dream are kind of just randomly showing up in places?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that happen to many people. I've had people who they've seen land where they've later lived because they dreamt it first in their dream. They saw a street address, and then later that's where they ended up, you know, building their homestead. And then I've had people, there was one friend who walked into a hotel room where I was staying, and she started screaming because she had dreamt the exact hotel room and us there like 3 years before. So it's
Yeah.
like that sense that like that you're in alignment, you're on the right path, you're where you're supposed to be. And that's like, it's just the same way when you experience any kind of synchronicity. It's kind of that exciting aliveness feeling. It's like,
Yeah, it was very
whoa.
wild. I just kept looking at it like,
Yeah.
okay, I've been there. And my husband's like, what do you do? I'm like, I was afraid to even say, well, a couple months ago, I dreamt sitting in a car in that parking lot in front of that building. And it was a random, like literally random building, random. It's not like I had a connection to it or anything. I just was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is like so
Yeah.
wild. So, you know,
Yeah.
again, letting our audience know these things are, when you bridge, I think you know, your dream life with your waking life,
Mm-hmm.
that means you are like coming into a consciousness and an awareness and
Yeah.
you can live creatively. You can live in a different way. Like you're talking about, setting the intention and playing around with your dreams and getting to know this part of you so much better.
Yeah, it's like you're really integrating all of these aspects of what life can be. I think so many people are only living on one spectrum of reality. And then the more you start to incorporate spiritual things, dream language, dream worlds, intuition, imagination, you realize you're kind of like building your life like a treasure hunt or a video game. And it gets so wild and surreal. And that's just becomes the norm.
Yes. And I think that's the real, when you talk about reclaiming parts of you, we're in a part of our waking life, our conscious life, our society where we need to claim the creative place we're supposed to be living in all these years. Like we need to
Yeah.
reclaim this power within us to create a better existence, to live in a different way,
Yeah.
and then allow those things to even come into fruition.
Yeah, I do think we're supposed to be living our life almost like a constant state of awe and
Mhm.
fascination. And I think that
Yes.
when you're able to learn how to do that, incorporate all those elements into waking life, then you don't really even want to follow anybody else or watch any movies because life is like the wildest thing ever. It's
I
so
mean,
fascinating and interesting.
yes, stuff cracks you up that people are like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is freaking hilarious that all these things are happening in the way that they're happening. And I mean, like, really? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it just wakes you up to the absurdity and the magic of life, like in every moment, and it's so fun.
totally fun. I'm high-fiving you on that one because it's to me, it's like and I love the fact that you talk about the playground because it to me, it is a playground. It's like, it's
It is a
hilarious
playground.
too.
It's a playground. It's funny to me that people think that they ever left the playground. It's like it's all the playground, like it's just like
Yes.
what part of the playground are you going to be playing on today?
I know. And it doesn't, even like I yesterday was having kind of a little blah kind of a day. And even then I was kind of still laughing through some of it. Like, well, what causes me to do this? Like, am I just tired? Am I just needing rest? And this is the way my body does it. And then I'm trying to make sense of it. And I'm giving it language that I don't need to. And to me, it's still, see, again, there's that intuition that's always trying to make meaning, connected dots, figure it out at a deep level, because I
Yeah,
love that. So,
it's fun. It definitely makes it more fun. It's a
absolutely.
height. I think it's a heightened way of living.
I would 100% agree with you there. Andrea,
Mhm.
thank you so very much for being on the
Yeah,
show.
thank
This has
you.
been, I love your book, Experiments in Dreaming, a journal to uncover your subconscious. And where can folks get it? Besides going to Austin, Texas at a boutique that I
Yeah,
can't even tell you
it's
where.
in like yeah, it's in the most random places, but you can find it on Barnes and Noble. I found out it's at Nordstrom. I didn't know that.
Okay.
It's at Amazon, bookshop.org, anywhere you can get books in a lot of little specialty shops too.
Okay, great. And we'll have a lot of Andrea's information so you can contact her if you want to know more of what she's doing and follow her in our show notes. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask you our high five question. So, what inspires you?
Oh my gosh, everything. I mean, I feel like I kind of play this game every time I leave my house. I'm like, I'm going to find something that inspires me or fascinates me today. So it can be like the most mundane thing. Like it could be like just like a random thing I notice on a house or something.
Yeah, today I was driving my son to school and I'm like, look at that bush. It's so bright. Like that color is so bright. And it was like a really foggy, kind of icky day. And he's looking at me like, what's up? And I thought, wow, the fact that I'm noticing that color that bright, like that's wild. I love it.
Yeah.
How do you have fun?
um Having these abstract intuitive conversations. I mean, I think I just kind of try to find other people who are like-minded and try to just share and connect. It's really fun for me.
I think you're one of those people that you just find fun in everything you're doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. You and I need to hang out more. What's one thing you can't live without?
I would say fun people to play with. Whether it's like my family or just my found family or like anyone who's around, just like somebody to enjoy life with.
Nice. What does freedom mean to you?
getting to do what I want to do and have the space to pursue my zany ideas.
I love it. I love it. That isn't that really kind of what we're all really seeking, right? Is the freedom to be able to be that expression of ourselves.
Yeah, just to be me, do what makes me
Yeah,
happy.
beautiful. What are you grateful for?
I don't even, I feel like I could go on this for like another hour. Like
Oh
it's
yeah, I know.
pretty much everything. I guess today I'm really grateful for this conversation and just to be in a good place, like health wise, and spring's here. So
I
excited.
think in the day and age that we live in, that's just where it's at. Is just being grateful for where we're at, and if we have some health and wellness and we notice it and we can see the beauty in what's happening around us, the seasons, the cycles, I think that's just extraordinary.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you again so much for joining us, Andrea. It's been
Thank you.
delightful, and I
Been so
want people
fun.
to go buy your book. It's the simplest, sweetest little way to just sort of play. I love that word, play with your dreams,
Yep.
and get to know yourself a little bit better. And audience, thank you so much for listening to Living the Liminal this week. And remember who you are. Brave confidence, courageously choose you, be the change, embrace your growth, and expand your awareness. You are a beautiful soul. I love you. Peace out, my friends.